Dark Knight's Rising, The Wild Hunt #1, Scott Snyder and Grant Morrison writing, with Jorge Jimenez, Doug Mankey, and Howard Porter all on art. And it's sort of divvied up throughout the book.
Yeah.
So,
where do you want to start with this one?
So I tweeted out yesterday after I read it. I said, you know what? I think I understood that pretty well. A couple of the pages. You know, there's a couple of
the credits page as well. Mendoza's also on art.
Oh, we got a fourth artist, alright.
Fourth, yeah. I think 3 doesn't sound like enough given how this looked.
That's fair. Obviously, the chimp stuff, the detective chimp stuff, was nicely separated because it was a flashback, so that worked out well as having a different artist. But
the rest's kind of a mess.
Yeah,
in terms of art.
Yeah, it flips. It's not all the end of the art is necessarily bad. It just kind of flips around too much to.
Yeah, there's just so much of it. But individually, they're all fine to good, depending on your taste. But
yeah,
they don't necessarily mesh all that well.
Yeah, so where do we begin? So Detective Chimp is kind of de-evolving because of what's happening with the multiverse and dying.
Yes. I mean, we do start with his origin.
We do start with his origin, yeah.
Which is nice. I liked it.
I enjoyed it as well. It was nice and simple compared to what the rest of the book ended up.
Yeah, and it was this nice, like, you know, like 3 or 4 pages of just, oh, we'll just do this.
Yeah. It made us care a little bit. I felt really bad for his you know, the guy who was feeding them and helping him, and you know, and then he comes back, he takes his hat, he comes back and solves the crime, and that's how his detective career starts. I did kind of like that. I'm not sure like how in line this is with like past versions of his origin. Like I'm not
too sure.
My Detective Chimp history is not as concrete as perhaps it should be. I will confess to that. But
me either.
It was an enjoyable little story for what it was. And, you know, we have Chimp working with a lot of the mad scientists, Magnus, Morrow, Savannah, etc.
Yeah.
They're working on the frequencies, the music side of things, which... this is actually one of the things that I think I'll read even better when it's read in trade later. I feel like it's been so long since they brought up the way that all this connects to music and the frequencies. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is a thing. Like, you know, I was sort of like, as I was reading, I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Like, rather than just knowing it as I'm reading it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's amusing because obviously all like the ship and stuff. It's not even new for metal. It's just that they've tied it in with this a bit more.
Yeah, what do you call it? The ultimate fuel.
Fuel. Yeah, fuel. It's such a hard word to get your tongue around, isn't it?
Because you want to say fuel. That's what your word goes to. Your mouth goes to. But yeah, fuel. The ultimate fuel. And you got Flash, you got Cyborg, you got Raven on there, and you've got the Dark Knights in pursuit, and they've got a baby universe.
A bunch of baby universes.
Oh yeah, you find out later that they've got a bunch of them because every missile they fired at the ship had one in it. But at first you think they've just got the one.
Yeah.
And you think that's just the MacGuffin, but then it turns out, no, we've got tons of baby universes, all handpicked by Barbatos, and we're sending them to you. And basically what they're doing is they're herding the heroes on the Thiel to basically be the carrier so that they can go into the heart of the multiverse and basically cause the explosion of the ripple that's going to break the multiverse. This is what they're doing. And I've simplified that. There was a lot more complex things going on than what I'm ready to explain to you, because I don't think I can explain them to you.
On Twitter, Snyder was saying how Morrison will tell you he didn't have that much impact on the book. He just added more monkeys.
Oh God.
No, he didn't.
This is so Grant Morrison.
It is. Like even the second panel of the book is looking at his multiversity map.
No, yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, I did notice that. And there's like small references. At one point, the ship flies over like one of the Earths, and you see like people like screaming for help down below. But obviously, it's all building up, and we have like big moments. Of course, the Red Death actually gets cured of evil Batman, and it's just that Barry again, and a gold version of the suit, and he ends up
cool actually.
Yeah, and he ends up helping our Barry, and then basically sacrifices himself to try and save the multiverse. He's like, no, there has to be sacrifices, and he stays behind. But then, of course, Batman, who laughs, is like, haha, this was all part of the plan. We have been herding you here. We are aiming you, and we get the almost. Was it just me, or does now cured good Red Death Barry exploding look very Dr. Manhattan-esque?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, very the blue light.
I don't know if that's intentional or if it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, look at this.
It may not actually mean anything, but I saw that and went, that looks very Manhattan.
It does look very similar.
Yeah. Red Tornado wakes up and he's basically like, evil's coming. We opened the door, we try to shut it, but evil's coming. You can't stop it.
Yeah.
So that's all happening.
Oh my god, there's so much in this book.
There's so much. And again, another thing that I'd almost kind of forgotten about is that the Batman Who Laughs has this guy in bandages, this captive person.
Yeah.
I remember theorising about this back in like issue 2.
Like 1 or 2. It was really early on, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're theorising about who this bandaged person could be. And he's making him watch. Whoever it is, he's making him watch as the universe is presumably dying. And then, but obviously, I think the big thing that everyone wants to talk about though is the ending.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have... So Chimp is de-evolving. And he hears a voice. As everything seems to be dying, he hears a voice. He hears Stubbs, who was the helper of the last monitor, if I recall correctly. This is getting super Grant Morrison here when I'm starting to talk about this shit.
Yeah.
And basically, this is help coming. Now, it's a shame Matt's not here because I really want to know what Matt's brain did when he read the phrase, "We're from the 53rd Earth."
I know. I got so excited.
And I'm like, oh, Matt's brain is imploding right now. And this is an ape planet of some kind, seemingly. I mean, we don't know. Maybe this was like humans first of all, and then it was like Planet of the Apes where they all took over. Maybe they were always apes. Look, who's to say at this point?
I want to know. I want more of this Earth.
We see Bat Chimp. We see Aqua Chimp. We see a little Raven Chimp, I think.
Is that what that is?
I think the little one's Raven.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Oh, actually, no, maybe is that an atom on his forehead?
Yeah, it looks more like an atom to me.
Okay, yeah, so maybe it's... Is it Captain Atom? Captain Atom Chimp? I don't know.
I have no idea. You got Super Chimp, obviously.
That's Big Titano. He's actually a pre-established thing.
I know, but I'm just going with the flow here.
Yeah, I don't believe the others are. I could be wrong, though. Someone will probably pull these out of obscurity. Like Grant Morrison pulled Bat Chimp out of Detective issue 425 from.
That would be a Morrison thing to do.
It would be.
That's his whole thing. Everything is canon.
Yeah, but Titano I'm familiar with. I can't tell you a lot about him, but I'm familiar with him. Yeah. So he's like, yeah. So here's the really interesting bit. So yeah, so Bobo, brother, Detective Chimp, we're here. I also like how he started. It's like DC. You wondered about what that meant. And I'm like, it was very meta.
Yeah. They've been doing the whole issue because he talks about how he played the accordion, the 2 chords.
The DC.
DC. Yeah.
And yeah, so he's like, yeah, we got this fixed back in 2067. The 53rd world is here to help. So are you ready to save the universe? And the last page, he's got his magnifying glass out. So it's Bat Chimp doing his Detective Chimp impression, and then behind him it appears that the heroes on the ship, the Thule, Cyborg, Flash, and Raven have survived. The chimps have saved them.
Yes. Chimps to the rescue.
So, would you like to explain to me what happened in this issue?
Not really. This is a dense issue that is all over the place in ideas, and it's so more. I think I need to read this like 3 or 4 times more before I really get it.
That may very well be true. Here's what I'm going to say in terms of positives. I think despite how hard it is to kind of keep a grasp on all the things that are happening,
it's always enjoyable.
Well, I wasn't exactly what I was going to say, but despite all the things that are going on, right, and despite all these ideas that, and I know they're not, this is the crazy thing about Morrison, is I know that he's just got an encyclopedia of these ideas that he's hinted at before in Multiversity, and, Final Crisis, and all these things, right? But in terms of a story, I do feel that sometimes he suffers because he doesn't actually properly set things up again for each story, so they actually work in a traditional sense. But to give it credit, throughout the entire time, I always get the feeling of what I'm supposed to feel in every single scene.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I don't know how he does that. I really don't. But I get the dread. I get the ticking time bomb sort of tension as they're racing towards the center of the universe. I get the dread of the evil coming as red tornadoes, like talking about how they opened the door. I get all these things. I get the emotion in every single scene, even if I don't entirely understand the bollocks that is spewing out of their mouths at all times.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
it's always, I'm always along for the ride, even though I'm like, I don't know what is going on at times. I'm sitting there trying to figure it out in my mind. I'm still enjoying what I'm reading. My biggest problem with this issue is they teased the shit out of me with Metal Men and then didn't even give me any.
I mean, they're there.
Yeah, but they don't do anything. They're not even awake. They just stand there.
Hey, sleeping is still existing, so therefore they are there.
Look, I acknowledge they are there. I wanted them in action. Is that too much to ask for?
I mean, beyond the art being very erratic because it's jumping between so many artists, I don't know, like, beyond my general kind of, like, unfriendliness to the reader that Morrison comics seem to be, I don't know what I'd really criticise all that much in it.
No, I agree. I think it's hard to wrap your head around, but I think it's well told in what it's doing. It's intentionally complicated.
Yeah.
But that's not really a criticism. It's hard to complain that when it's okay, you kind of know what you're getting when Morrison's on a book. That's his thing, and a lot of people like that. I like that a lot of the time. So it's hard to say, oh, this is bad because of that, when it's just okay, that's just his style.
I like it more in something like this. I think for me, like when I'm missing, you know, I think he's a bit hit and miss for me. But when it's a miss, it tends to be because he's applying his crazy style to something I don't think really fits it. Like, you know, I was never a big fan of Return of Bruce Wayne. Like, you know, I love his Batman and Robin, right? And yeah. I quite enjoy the build up to R.I.P. and R.I.P. itself. But Return of Bruce Wayne, where he's traveling through time, and it's nothing but crazy ideas.
Yeah.
For 6 issues, and I'm like, this is not what I want from Batman, right?
No, I get that.
When you're doing this, you know, multiverses, 53rd
It's
Earth.
why, like, his multiverse is potentially some of his greatest work, because that inherently is his idea that plays into his insanity.
Insanity is the word for it. There's nothing else I would use for it. But that said, he also wrote one of my favourite Batman stories of all time in Arkham Asylum. So, you know, clearly his craziness can apply, you know, if it is applied correctly to the property. Because that was all about insanity inside Arkham Asylum. So it kind of, you know, was this insane, almost Silent Hill-esque House of Horrors.
Still strangely more straightforward than most of his other work.
It is, but I think that's correct for Batman.
I agree. Unless it's this sort of Batman story where it's, Batman's out of his depth with all this crazy shit.
Oh yeah, but Batman himself's not even in this issue though, unless we're counting the Dark Knights. But I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
But you know, it's a thing. But so I'm excited to see how the chimps factor in to the final issue. I can't wait.
Joe, this is one of those issues though where I'm going, should this have just been a regular issue of the book? Because when we get to issue 6 and the chimps show up, and you skipped this because you thought it was just a tie-in, you're going to be like, where the hell did all the chimps come from?
What baffles me about this, though, is that this wasn't originally planned. This was added in late.
It was, yeah.
He said that on Twitter. This was the only thing that they added in that wasn't planned to begin with. They said, we'll put in another one-shot and give Capullo another month to finish up.
Yeah.
And
that's insane.
So, I mean, maybe they won't factor in as much as we think we do, but this feels like one of the biggest cliffhangers of the third book.
It does, and it amuses me that Morrison's only writing this. Like, they didn't approach him. Morrison came up and was like, "Hey, I want to be involved in this."
Yeah, he's like, "This is crazy shit. I want in."
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it's like, I get it. I understand why Morrison wants in on this. This is such a Morrison-esque event in general.
There's some Dark Batman stuff in there. Like some of them seem to be doubting what they're doing.
Yeah, I can't remember which one was one of them. Like they actually were promised, we want to be heroes on our worlds again. So they're still thinking they're kind of doing this for some twisted, noble reason, rather than just, you know, some of them are like, nah, we're evil, let's do evil shit. Yeah.
So various shades of dark, I suppose you could look at that. But hey, I don't know what else to say about the issue.
I liked Raven in this issue quite a lot.
No, Raven was given a prominent role. It felt like she wasn't being. It felt like she belonged to be with the Justice League more than Cyborg did.
It did, yeah.
She was pulling her weight.
Proving her worth, for sure.
Yeah, so that was nice to see. It was nice that, you know, you obviously had Flash as well, the biggest hitter in the book in terms of main characters, but it was nice to see Raven and Detective Chimp getting some spotlight here and like them being driving forces of something.
Yeah, it's strange that, you know, Detective Chimp was the emotional core of the issue.
It was, because you were worried about him, you know, losing his intelligence and going back to just being a chimp.
Just being a chimp, yeah. It was something I wasn't expecting going in. Not that I had any idea what to expect with this.
Well, I guess it's a representation of what the Dark Batmen are essentially trying to do. Is they're trying to take away humanity from all of the worlds, and how do you represent that more than taking away the literal humanity of something that otherwise shouldn't have it? You know,
definitely.
Chimp should just be a chimp, and so. And as per usual with stories, if you put an animal in danger, even one that's, you know, can talking and sentient and all the rest of it, it still hits you a little bit more than any human beings would.
For some reason, that's true.